Hello and welcome to the Gold Newsletter channel. My name is Kai Hoffmann, I'm the JR mining guy over on X, and together with our good friend Brien Lundin, I'm the host of the Gold Newsletter channel, and I'm looking forward to doing a bit of an outlook and recap conversation here with Ian Harris. He's the president and CEO over at Outcrop Silver, and the company's been quite busy in 2024, and of course we need to get to understand and follow up with him about what the plans are for 2025, how successful was 2024, what gave him some headaches, and what are some of the challenges and opportunities looking forward to 2025. We'll discuss all that after you hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously and potentially attracts other investors to this story. So we do appreciate that. Now, without much further ado, Ian, it is great to have you on. Happy New Year. I'm still allowed to say it. It's only January 13th. And health and wealth to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Kai. It's a pleasure to be here and continue the story, what's going on in Outcrop.
Yeah, absolutely. No, let's recap. Maybe start with a bit of a recap of 2024. We've chatted a few times last year. I think it was at least 3 times on this channel. So we can keep this part potentially briefer than the outlook, of course, because we always are excited about what's ahead instead of what's behind us. But let's recap maybe some of the achievements and challenges that you had in 2024, and we'll drill down on those.
Yeah, so I joined in July of 2023, came on board. There was just a new resource estimate put out and looking how to dramatically increase the resource area. And really, we came to the conclusion in 2024 we had to be way more ambitious. And there's a little bit of butterflies in the stomach because the idea was most of the resources in the northeast of the deposit and take big step outs further down south. And it was a big decision because we've never worked in those areas before. We've never drilled in those areas before. New communities, new neighbors to work with. So really being able to finish the year over 16,000 meters, we initially, I think, were saying we'd get between 10 and 12,000 meters done. But one of the big milestones, not just the meters, but we signed over 100 right-of-way agreements. And really, that isn't possible unless you've built upon a reputation and there's trust built up, right? That when we have a conversation, that there's a big history of how you've performed and the way you worked. It's not some great unknown, which made that whole process a whole lot easier. So obviously, from a technical side, the 16,000 meters, testing so many new targets, converting first time into discoveries, adds to the inventory. But it was really the biggest obstacle is how we're actually going to logistically and work with our communities in order to be able to execute on this plan. So we're very happy, right, that we were able to do that. And it obviously sets up a very strong base because we've executed on what we wanted to say, allows us to now go into 2025 working on, with a higher level of confidence that we can execute in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think the community part I think is really, really important because I want to fish a little bit for like the biggest challenge. Like 100 right-of-way agreements is quite a bit. Like, would you say the community relations was the biggest challenge in 2024? Or were there other things that gave you headaches here, Ian?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily a headache, but it was definitely the largest obstacle. And there was a couple pieces where we have key infrastructure, right, where we're working in or have key water lines and they access multiple areas. And really, obviously, knowing these were things that had to be done. And I think another big obstacle is at the end of the year, we got all the way down to Mangos, and to get down there, there's some pretty big valleys we had to get across. And from an engineering and social and technical point of view, to be able to set up and be drilling at Mangos by the end of the year also was a huge accomplishment. And the team has really executed. And then the other nice part is when you go from getting the okay by community to the support of community, then they're actually feeling very much a part of it. Then they start becoming parts of the solution, right? They go, oh, don't go that way. What you should do is go this way. And then they help you with, because they deal with these types of problems themselves on a day-to-day basis. A lot of it is subsistence farming, and they come up with their unique engineering to come up with solutions, and we can incorporate that into our own operations.
Yeah, that's extremely beneficial. I think there's no real downside having positive community relations. Like, still trying to find that one. Let's get a little more technical here, Ian. 16,000 meters drilled last year. Maybe recap that a little bit, because I understand you only wanted to drill 10, but you drilled 16. Something must have prompted that, expansion of the program. So there must have been certain success or something that you've seen in the program that you liked, of course. So maybe we'll recap that program.
Yeah, so really it wasn't a function of, oh, let's drill more meters, because we had a certain amount of drills and they're constantly drilling. They're continued to drill. We didn't just stop at the end of the year and we demobilized, right? So it was really a function of productivity. And I think the biggest one is the ability to execute logistically, get the right of ways done, get to new pads, etc., facilitated the extra productivity. And also we made a change with our drill contractor early on too, because we realized this was also a part of the problem, and executed with and brought in a new contractor who's also executed together work as more part of the team. And so we had multiple targets that we wanted to test this year. We had Jimenez, Aguilar, La Ye, Morena, Guadal, Los Mangos, La Rica. Many of these are advancing or getting towards, I think we even did Maris Norte this year, right? But we had so many targets, right? Because this resource that's 37 million ounces is really made up of 6 individual veins, all in the Northeast. So the idea was, well, every time we know that we can get something ready for drilling, drill test it, convert it to discovery, you're adding into an inventory of now areas where you can add resources, right? So if our internal goal is to get to 100 million ounces, then you got an idea of, we got to build an inventory of at least 10 new areas to be able to drill on. So that's the logic, right? Because I also just don't want to be drilling to drill, right? I want to make sure that our drilling, and we could take a deeper dive into this, and because it's really a big part of the strategy, is I want to make sure that I'm adding ounces to our inventory for less expensive than our current valuation per ounce is in the ground, right? I want to make sure that we're spending money and creating value. It's accretive.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe recap a couple on the project. How do you call them? Like project within a project, like the sub projects,
Veins. I guess this is individual veins,
areas.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to find that word, because like the big project, and then you got the little sub projects. But like out of those that you drilled, and you've drilled a lot of or expansion drilling there last year. Like, which one is the most prospective? Which one are you most excited about?
One of the ones that maybe for many people on paper, because it was, it was just consistent. But one of my favorite areas was Aguilar, right? Because although it continued to be somewhat narrow, there was none of these big blowouts of multiple meters, super high grade, which Outcrop is really known for, right? Let's say, when you hit 2 meters at 15,000 grams, market loves it, right? But those type of veins aren't normally the most consistent. And what was nice about Aguilar is that we were able to consistently drill over about 650 meters strike, then all the way down 200 meters, and it just consistently put out additional results. And then on top of it, it started showing that there was a multiple system and we hit multiple blind veins on that same mineralization path. So it shows that it's a very much a robust system, continues right into Jimenez, which we had another 500 meters. And I like that. I like that consistency, because it's going to be one of those, the backbone to a future resource expansion. And I really like that, right? And it also gives us that higher level of confidence to go chase some of the more difficult areas when you get into an ore shoot, right? Because when you see a trace on something on the surface and you're just basically trying to understand how does it look in terms of dip underneath the surface, and obviously it's a lot more complicated than that. But within that too, there's another ore shoots that have a different plunge. So it's a big exercise and a big mystery trying to find those big ore shoots. So knowing that you have this very consistent mineralized system of veins helps, because okay, I got a solid base and I can take some of more bigger risks looking for some of these bigger blowout areas.
Yeah. What exploration technique worked best for you last year? Is there anything groundbreaking, anything new that you've tried that really helped, or just go out, explore, maybe look at outcrops and there's follow up?
Well, we're called outcrop for a reason, but most people don't realize some of those outcrops are only like this little big, right? You see this little rock and you have to scrape away at it and you find it. But a basic systematic approach of mapping, then trenching, or if you can do channel samples. Sometimes there's old underground adits. You can get some access and touch some phases. But we like to be very systematic. But we were surprised this year is that our geochemistry actually helped out a lot. We continue to do the geochemistry, and we started to notice that near some of the better areas that were really prolific, you see a very light arsenic halo. We're not talking arsenic. We're talking parts per billion of arsenic, but you could start seeing these halo around some of the more prolific areas, and that would start creating a vector for us, right? So we have all the tools, but mostly we want to do all our homework before we sit a drill on top of something and drill into it, right? We want to be very disciplined. There's some areas that I get really excited about, right? And then even my team is like, no, Ian, we need to do a little bit more work. We're not ready yet. But I'm like, it looks so awesome. Like, let's go drill that thing. And they actually pull me back and say, nope, Ian, we got to go through the process. And I said, it's called La Rica for a reason. Let's go do it, right? It's calling us, right? But they go, no. We maintain that approach, and that's very important because to be fair, that's what I want, right? I want to have that very disciplined approach, and I want to make sure we're reducing risk as much as possible, and we're executing on a plan that can create value.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about discipline brings me to capital discipline as well, Ian. We got to talk about what you spent last year. How much money did you raise? And I saw Eric Sprott increased his ownership last year to 19%. Like, how much of an impact did that have on the company as well? Maybe we can put that all into one big answer here.
Yeah, sure. So I think we came in, ended the year, and I'll get the final numbers here soon, is about 9 million dollars Canadian, right? And we have a disciplined approach, not in the way we execute, but also in the way that we try and keep things lean. And we have an internal number. We'd like to keep our total drilling cost top to bottom. I'm not talking project costs or all in or all these things, corporate, right? To around the $500 per meter mark, right? That goes down to the project level about $300 per meter on a project level, right? Including everybody, including sampling, et cetera, et cetera. And those are kind of rules of thumb that we use that say, we've been adding too many people, or we're doing too many things. We're getting too big for our britches, right? So that's a part of the discipline that we have established. And we obviously have an ambitious plan of about 24,000 meters this year, which again, that equates to about a $12 million budget, right? It makes math easy and it creates discipline around it, but we're about 12 million this year. So Eric coming in, we were obviously thinking how we're going to come in through financing. And that Eric coming in, and I can probably give a little bit of the background. Coming in, it was really a phone call in the morning. He saw a presentation. He's been a shareholder for a while, but liked the approach and called up, and he wanted to put $5 million into the company. There was also a bunch of warrants came in that put us over about 7 or 8 million this year. So we're coming into the year with a very healthy treasury, which is nice, right? Because we can see obviously our biggest beta to the share price is silver price, right? Silver continues and equities continue to trade very closely to silver price, which is a little different from some of the other equities, which are a little bit more untied. They do move, but not like in silver. But it gives us enough to say, okay, now we can time and take advantage to doing additional capital raises when it's at the best interest of shareholders, not just because of necessity. So that was very, very, very nice way to end the year. And we continue to look and say, nope, not now. Let's continue. Not yet. And I really think hopefully the stars are aligning overall on where silver's going this year, and allows us to take advantage of it from a position of safety, confidence. I don't know what's the worst way, but a full treasury, maybe that's the better way of saying it, and take advantage of that.
When you say full treasury, like what's the dollar amount? Like, can you put a finger on it? I know the numbers are not final. You haven't released your year-end financials or anything yet, but
I think we're sitting on still $6 million so far that we're sitting on top of to bring us into the next year. So fairly, about half of this year's budget, right, already covered is very nice.
Oh, absolutely.
And the other part about it is that, going a little bit into having these discoveries and converting them. So this year we'll continue to create new targets. We'll continue to test new areas, but we're now moving towards focusing more on resource drilling. But having that inventory of areas you can go to also helps our planning, right? I think I've talked about it before. It's very simple. We have a success rate, we have an average width, we have an average grade, we have an average strength, which tells us how many ounces we can add, and then basically how many meters does it take to add that inventory, right? And then that costs dollars per ounce or cents per ounce. How much is it going to cost us to convert those areas? So the larger inventory we have obviously increases our overall efficiency on how we're going to be able to execute on that. And I like that, right? I like that I say, okay, one day I'm hoping that silver goes to $200 an ounce. But if it continues to go sideways where it is, I know where our valuation is for dollars per ounce. I know that the money that I'm spending today is going to create value for our shareholders, right? While we wait for a more serendipitous moment. But it allows us to execute on a plan, very disciplined plan, that allows us to add value to our shareholders, independent if things just continue to go to sideways. And we got, as I said, we have fuel in the tank to continue to execute on that plan. And I like that. So we're going into 2025 with a very high level of confidence that we've got a system down. We're executing on it. We were able to do what we said we were going to do last year. And we are at an even higher level of confidence we'll be able to execute in 2025.
You talked about that resource estimate, or the updated resource estimate. Of course, I have to ask about timing. I'm guessing it might be at the end of the year, but maybe as part B of the question, where do you see most ounces being added? What area will they come from? And can you give us a bit of guidance? Like, what are you targeting? Without having, of course, exact numbers in your head, but there's got to be a business plan. And before you put out the next resource estimate, what's the target?
So overall, our larger target is we want to get near to or above that 100 million ounce mark. And I think it's an important psychological number for market for no other reason, right? Well, that's not fair. It's a little bigger reason because also it is a big enough chunk of material that then allows you to say, okay, let's go into a standard project development and start looking at a PEA or PFS, et cetera. It's got enough guts to it, right? That could be compelling to others, right? It becomes a asset that's a material asset that becomes interesting to others, right? So we want to put out our next resource estimate. I don't want to go from 37 to 45, right? I want to take big jumps because another problem that we've had with the 37 million ounces is many people, when they saw that number, they're like, it's done. That's it. That's the total number. Right, it's a problem of the psychology of market that many people just basically many times just spend 15 to 30 seconds evaluating your company, right? So we want to be able to show resource expansions that are significant jumps that people go, oh, they went from 37 to just say 65. I'm just throwing a number out there. You can see how that they're getting towards that 100 million ounce number. And that's kind of our internal target this year is getting, we would like to, and we've also now pulled in-house, right, from basically learning from errors that were made in the past, right, is that we need to start doing the resource estimates internally, getting a good grasp of where we're sitting, what we need to do, and what is the impact of individual drill holes. So another thing that we'll be starting this year, very early in the year, is working on developing our own internal model and our own internal resource estimation so that we know where we're going to be sitting. But I think, and it's a very rough, right? Goal is between that 60 to 70 million, but obviously I want to be able to have a higher level of confidence, and we'll be there, I think, after the end of the first quarter or middle of the second quarter, where we'll be able to do that own estimation internally.
Where are you drilling right now, Ian? I saw you already put drill results out from the Yi earlier this year. Where's the drill positioned right now, and where can we expect the next set of results to come from?
Right now, it's going to get a little slow because we're all the way down south in Los Mangos, and I think that the next move is going to be all the way down to Frias, which is all the way down to the south. So some significant drill moves, new areas that we're going to get into. Very exciting. but obviously to say, hey, we got 37 million ounces up here. We've hit a multiple discoveries here in the middle, all the way down 17 kilometers down to the south. We're now drilling there, and we're highly confident that we'll come back with continued high-grade primary silver mineralization. But it becomes very easy to see mentally when you see ounces up top, and then I could see another there. And by using your big fat thumbs, you can see that we're developing that pathway to 100 million. So should be an exciting start of the year before it gets really boring. It's just about drilling and drilling and drilling, executing on a very, very disciplined approach, and then looking forward to adding ounces. Which I don't. If we do it, where I think just looking at the initial planning, if we came out with initial estimate, it would be in the first quarter of the following year, right? Unless we got way ahead of ourselves, right? We might have it done, but to get the 43-101 and everything out and the released, et cetera, we'd be looking at the beginning of the following year, right? But lots of solid news flow. Now, the other thing that was really nice as I was putting together the letter and looking through, lots of solid news flow coming out of the company, continuously putting out news, which was very nice. It's one of the things we wanted to do. So we'll be able to continue to have that very strong pipeline of news coming out during the year, which is also very helpful.
Ian, maybe one last question, since you're a mining engineer. You've done quite a bit of met work last year and improved recoveries up to 96%. Anything more you need to do on the met side for that resource update? How much is that factoring in? How happy are you as an engineer with the metallurgical work?
Right now, I think we put a pin in the metallurgical work until we start getting into a project development where we're going to need, we know this is the areas where material could be potentially coming from, and do some more detailed work specifically trying to blend what a production schedule looks like, right? Because that's the way you're supposed to do it, right? You're supposed to get a little bit from La Rica, a little bit from Morena, a little bit from here, a little bit there, the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where it's coming from, and you want to create sampling and do lock cycle test work based on what that material flow might look like. So, but for now, I think we're pretty, we're sitting very positively. We're very excited about the initial work. It's solid. I think some of the other work is, and I think I said it last year, and probably one of the areas, and I probably should have mentioned it in my letter, or maybe I was like, we didn't do what I really wanted us to do last year. And that was getting a little bit more advanced on permitting, and actually developing a small scale project. But we started early in our year, one of our big goals, we're going to bring in individuals that can specifically sit. And so we're not stealing the vice president of exploration, or the project manager for exploration, or the social manager trying to also co-manage a project. We're bringing in people that can specifically manage looking at small scale permitting and execution, so that we can really focus on doing something on a smaller scale earlier, and make sure we execute on it this year, because we have the alignment and the political will locally and regionally. They actually bug us. When are we going to do this? Let's go. Let's do something together. So we definitely have the support, and we cannot miss out on this opportunity to bring something small, pilot that basically proves the concept is the early idea. And it also gives you a platform, instead of doing a big project and a big permit, that you can perhaps expand and do expansion. So it's a quicker pathway to production.
Ian, I think my audience would be mad at me if I don't ask, but you're obviously underfunded for 2025, and I do have to ask, like, what are the funding options for the company? Like, what are the plans? Bringing in a strategic joint venture partner, bigger strategic investor? Like, what are the options that you have available, and what are the plans right now?
Well, we're obviously sitting in a position with a decent treasury ability to execute for a while, that we can put a little bit of patience and discipline to our approach. And I think our number one most logical answer is we will be going back to market, but we are trying to focus heavily on institutions, and maybe U.S. institutions. And I should say why, because we watch on a daily basis, where's our buying coming from? Where's our selling coming from? We're seeing a lot of strong buying coming out of the United States, which for me is very interesting, because it's early in the cycle. I know everybody says the United States loves silver, but not necessarily silver equities, right? So seeing them early into early stage, seeing so much buying coming out of the United States, and it's one of the reasons we want to focus a little bit more of our marketing in the U.S. in terms of with institutions. That's our number one answer. But we are obviously something on a corporate level we would definitely be open to. Obviously, the one thing we would be looking at it would be any sort of debt or stream or royalty or any of those kind of things. We're not really we wouldn't look to be putting more handcuffs on a project this early. We're sitting in this strong of a position. Now, in terms of timing, again, right, we are allowed to time it, at least be a little patient and say, okay, we believe that, the silver, during a silver rallies will start moving and it'll get the attention that it truly deserves. I call it right now, we've been knocked out of our space a little bit. There's been a little bit of a crypto run and money has flowed and taken us away from some fundamentals, but I don't think it's going to be a long-lived rally. And so that we can apply that discipline and be ready when things start moving and going in the right direction again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ian, wonderful conversations. Like lots happening. Obviously, 20,000 meter drill program planned. Lots of news to come out this year. Can't wait to have you back on the channel, I have to admit. But maybe just to recap real quick, what are the next news items that we can expect, next catalysts, maybe in chronological order here, Ian?
Yeah, so the number one, that big conduit of news is, we still expect on a minimum of on a monthly basis, but we like it to be multiple times per month. There'll be consistent news results coming out on our drilling and our new testing. And it could always be exciting because we're always testing new areas and et cetera, et cetera. And that will be the majority of the news flow over the next 6 months. We're also working in the background. We have quite a large portfolio of non-core assets and looking on how we can create some value out of them. So there's always some serendipity that could pop in during the way as we put all of our attention on the Santa Ana project and our massive silver focus.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Ian, thank you so much for joining me here. Really happy New Year. All the best for 2025. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you again soon, at least when the next set of results drops or we're getting closer to a bigger catalyst here as well. So fantastic, Ian. Yeah.
I guess I can say I'll see you in Vancouver. I am headed from here in Medellin, but headed up to Vancouver. I will be at VRIC. So look forward to saying hello and shaking hands again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Saying Happy New Year in person and looking forward to meeting everybody there. It's going to be a big conference. It's going to be good. I'm excited about it. I'll be there starting Sunday as well. So, no, fantastic. Ian, thank you so much. And everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in here to the Gold Newsletter. If you found this conversation with Ian Harris informative, leave a comment, leave a like, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Helps us out tremendously, and if you are an investor already, it helps spread the message. So it's a twofer for you as an investor. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with lots more here on the Gold Newsletter. Thank you.